At the start of every Pokemon journey, you choose your first partner and take your first steps into the tall grass. It is here that many trainers meet beloved team members early on in their journeys. Will you knock these Pokemon out to train your starter, or will a few be coming with you to join you on your adventure? While these Pokemon may not seem as exciting as others, they bring a sense of familiarity and comfort that few other niches do. Welcome to the early roots of the Enjey region. Let's start with what usually comes first in Pokedex order, our regional bug. Meet Pricklepillar, the spiny Pokemon. It's a bug in normal type. Its spiny body deters predators from eating it. Otherwise, it is a fairly weak Pokemon. This little guy is inspired by the caterpillar of the Io moth, the New Jersey state moth. Yes, New Jersey, our lovely garden state, loves bugs so much that we have a state insect, the European honeybee, and a state moth. The colors here are much warmer to more closely resemble Jupiter, with a red spot to match. I'll explain at the end of this line why that is. Naturally, Pricklepillar's name comes from prickly and caterpillar. After some experience, Pricklepillar evolves into Kaluna, the leafy shell Pokemon. It keeps the normal bug type. They sleep in large groups. When one shakes, the rest begin to shake as well. This happens more often on moonlit nights. Naturally, this Pokemon is based on a moth cocoon. It's actually based on my experience working with moth cocoons at my job, where you watch over soon-to-hatch cocoons over the summer. There's actually 2 layers to the shell of the cocoon, the actual pupa, the bug that's inside, and then a layer of wrapped leaves on top to protect it further. When the pupa shuffles in that leaf case, it causes this charming maraca sound. You might be familiar with Mexican jumping beans or dancing beans, and that's what those are. They're just moth cocoons that are jumping around. For some reason, the pupas tend to all shake together whenever I've worked with them. It's like they're all having a little rave. Like with Pricklepillar, we kept the Jupiter-inspired palette, with the face now representing the red spot. Kaluna's name comes from cocoon and Luna, to mean the moon. After a good rest, Kaluna will reach its final form, Nocturnal, the ringed moth Pokemon. Like the rest of its line, it is a bug normal type. Because it comes out at night and resembles the planet Jupiter, humans associate this Pokemon with space. It navigates by using the moon as reference. The patterning on Nocturnal is inspired by male Io moths, who have yellow wings with distinctive eye spots. This is part of the Jupiter inspiration. The other part is the name Io itself. Io is actually the name of one of Jupiter's moons, and with moths being closely associated with moonlight and nighttime, it felt perfect to associate the eye spots with Jupiter's red spot, and use that as a guide for the whole line. The reason for this line's normal typing is threefold. For one, this type has somehow not been used yet in the official Pokemon series, at least at the time of recording. But these common types both embody the early route to me. Plus, normal type is often associated with especially fluffy or furry Pokemon, which felt appropriate for a moth. Lastly, I thought the typing would make for a fun bit of irony. It's interesting for a Pokemon with many celestial inspirations to be a normal type. The reason that it navigates using the moon actually has to do with a recent study on moths, which gives us a little bit of insight as to why they seem attracted to light. It seems like they like to place their backs in the direction of the light because they are using it as if it is the moon and navigating. So when artificial light is very close and very bright, they think there's just way too many moons around and they can get a little bit disoriented. And that seems to be the reason that moths behave the way they do famously with light. So I thought I would incorporate that new research into the Pokedex entry of this Pokemon. Nocturnal's name comes simply from moth and nocturnal. Let me know if this cute moth would make it to your team. As much as I love our regional bug, I've always used regional birds in my own playthroughs, so why don't we meet the bird of Enjey? Introducing Check-Chick, the curious Pokemon. It's a pure flying type. A curious Pokemon, Check-Chick is quick to explore new places as soon as it leaves the nest. Check-Chick's family is inspired by ospreys, a bird of prey found in the wetlands of New Jersey. Check-Chick's name comes from Check, referring to its curious nature, and Chick, since it's just a baby bird. With a little bit of experience, you can evolve Check-Chick into Osprentis, the mental map Pokemon. It's a psychic and flying type. It flies above the wetlands and observes its prey with a careful eye. By watching endlessly, it learns their habits. Osprentis takes inspiration from the idea of the bird's eye view, and the pattern around its eye is meant to resemble a compass rose. Birds are also well known for their ability to navigate, so Osprentis takes some inspiration from both migrating birds and hunters with excellent memory of their territory. It's meant to look like a young fledgling still learning to hunt with the guidance of its parents. I feel like many young birds of prey often look a little fluffy and clumsy when they're learning the ropes of being a bird, and I wanted to capture a little bit of that awkwardness with Osprentis. Osprentis names comes from osprey and apprentice, since it's still learning its craft. After getting a better grasp of its hunting technique and psychic abilities, Osprentis will evolve into Espray, the bird's eye view Pokemon. It keeps the psychic and flying type. It has memorized the habits of all that live near its home, and uses its fantastic recall to ambush prey. Espray expertly uses its psychic powers to enhance its hunting ability. Its design is clearly based on a fully grown adult osprey, which are beautiful, fluffy white birds. I found them as cute as they are elegant. Espray's name comes from osprey and ESP, or extrasensory perception, another term for psychic abilities. The osprey may not seem like an obvious pick for a bird to represent New Jersey. Why not go with something more iconic like a seagull, or more commonplace like a sparrow? Well, I feel that ospreys and the story of them here in New Jersey represent the themes of Enjey. You see, ospreys very nearly went extinct here. This was due to something called biomagnification. It's a phenomenon where pollutants become more potent further up on a food chain. For example, if a single small fish ingests a little poison, it's not too big of a deal. However, let's say, for example, that a larger fish eats many small fish. Now, this larger fish has all of those poisons in its body. This process continues up the food chain, all the way to the apex predators who suffer the worst consequences. For the Barnegat Bay area, that was the ospreys. The pollutant, a pesticide called DDT, caused ospreys to lay weaker eggs, making it nearly impossible for them to hatch chicks. Thankfully, ospreys were listed as endangered in the 1970s, and DDT was banned in the United States. With the addition of osprey nest towers and careful, passionate help from local conservationists, ospreys have made an incredible recovery. If you go to the wetlands here in New Jersey today, you may even be lucky enough to see some ospreys watching over a nest. Ospreys are now totally thriving in their ecosystems, just as they were before the introduction of DDT. The arc of ospreys and their amazing recovery is exactly what Enjey is meant to inspire us to do. No matter how doomed things may seem, we can make things better with enough effort and determination. This lovely bird native to my home county felt like the perfect choice for the regional bird. Now that the bird and bug are covered, let's move on to our regional rodent. Meet Flipmunk, the runaway Pokemon. It's a normal type. Because it is rather weak, this Pokemon is quick to flee at the first sign of danger. You might be able to tell that Flipmunk is inspired by the eastern chipmunk. Honestly, if Galar hadn't already done squirrels, that might have been my rodent, but since those have been taken, I have decided to do another one I see in my backyard all the time, and that's how Flipmunk was born. Having grown up with a dog, I remember how quick and agile the chipmunks were as they ran away from him. Their stripes felt like racing stripes to me, and gave me plenty of inspiration for this evolution family. And Flipmunk's name is of course taken from chipmunk, but also flit, which means to move rapidly and nimbly. Flipmunk evolves into Sprintmunk, the track runner Pokemon. It's a normal and fighting type. A highly competitive Pokemon, it likes to race with others in forests and fields. It always wins these matches. Sprintmunk gains the fighting type to reflect its competitive and athletic nature. The stripes are also repatterned to somewhat resemble a tracksuit. I made its eyes this interesting Looney Tunes-esque design to resemble Patrat and Wachog from our neighbor Unova. I wanted there to be a hint that they could be related. Sprintmunk goes from being this timid, traditional prey-type creature in Flipmunk to becoming a competitive athlete. In a way, their evolution is about going from being scared to being a well-known winner and overall just overcoming their fears and gaining their courage. Sprintmunk is also slightly inspired by my girlfriend's brother, who is a track runner, so Matthew, if you're seeing this little rodent is for you. And of course, Sprintmunk's name is made up of both chipmunk and sprint. I mentioned that I grew up with a dog. Actually, it was two of the same breed. I grew up with West Highland White Terriers, or Westies. Since many regions these days include cat and dog Pokemon as rarer spawns on early routes, I decided to include these niches as well. Let's meet our dog, Muddy Puppy, the Mud Puppy Pokemon. It's a ground type. They love to dig around in search of treasure. They're prized by archaeologists. The word terrier comes from the root terra, meaning dirt and earth. As a group, terriers are dogs meant to dig. In fact, the tail of a Westie is so thick and tough that you could, theoretically, pull your Westie out of the ground by their tail if need be. In the real world, terriers were used for hunting rodents and mustelids. But here in Enjey, they're best at finding buried treasure. While my childhood dog, Charlie, was by no means an actual hunting dog, he kept his terrier instincts. He frequently dug holes under the fence in our yard and came back with a dirt-covered face. That habit of digging is what inspired the muddy, ground-type concept of Muddy Puppy. You can guess that its name is taken from muddy and puppy, and the name is also supposed to have this cute, silly sound, something a child might call their dog. Muddy Puppy evolves into Mudsty, the dirt-digging Pokemon. It is also a ground type. A rambunctious but affectionate Pokemon, its fur is caked with dirt from digging in the ground. This dirt helps protect it, making it extra tough in battle. The fur here is inspired by the frills, as we called them on Charlie, and how frequently he would get that part of his body dirty by playing outside. I always thought that his furry frills made him look like a sea slug, too. The fur also covers the face, which is how Charlie looked in his old age. My sister would often joke that it looked like he had no eyes. The shinies for both Muddy Puppy and Mudsty are black, meant to resemble another Scottish dog, the Scottie. Scotties are similar in shape to Westies, but have longer snouts and a black coat instead of a white one. There's this old tale about the origin of the Westie that feels relevant to Enjey as well. I actually have no idea how true it is, but the fact that it's well known and often repeated felt like reason enough to include Westies as the dog representation. Westies are an offshoot of the Cairn Terrier, which comes in much more earthy colors and coarser fur. It's said that while hunting, a hunter couldn't see his own brown cairn, and shot it instead of a fox they were hunting. To make sure he never made this mistake again, he bred white dogs, which could never be mistaken for prey, and always be seen while hunting. These dogs became Westies. This story felt close to the albatross story that the legendary Pokemon are inspired by. Go watch that video to learn more about that. And it gave me the push I needed to indulge myself by including my childhood dog as a Pokemon. Last, but certainly not least, we have our cat Pokemon. This is Calicat, the kitten Pokemon. It's adored by people across the Enjey region for its colorful coat. People consider it a sign of good luck. It's meant to both look like a stuffed animal and a slightly beat-up alley cat. Growing up, we actually had a local crazy cat lady. She literally lived at the end of my street. I grew up around lots of stray cats, and Calicat is partly inspired by them. Calicat is also inspired by the childhood cat of my friend Urklo, whose name was Clementine. Clementine was a calico, which is why I went with the Calico Cat specifically for this Pokemon. I like to think they're like Enjey's version of Skitty. Calicat is naturally taken from cat and calico. Evolving Calicat is a little bit complicated. Either it needs to faint 9 times, or level up in a late-game place I've been calling the Forbidden Zone, which I'll cover in a later video. Once either of these conditions are met, Calicat evolves into Calighost, the 9 lives Pokemon. It's a normal and ghost type. If an object falls off a shelf on its own, it's likely the prank of a Calighost. The activities of a traditional poltergeist and the mischief of a cat just felt like a perfect match. And with the saying that cats have 9 lives, this was just the inspiration I needed to create Calighost. Its front paws are also disembodied, allowing it to reach great distances for maximum mischief. These are also meant to resemble the hooves of Spectrier, another ghostly Pokemon based on a domestic animal. Historically and in many cultures, cats are associated with ghosts, spirits, and the afterlife, so it felt highly appropriate to create this ghostly cat. It also takes another, more traditional aspect of the rebirth theme in Enjey. As a ghost, Calighost represents the undead. While its concept may seem kind of morbid, my intention was to create a Pokemon that is loving and charming. Ghosts aren't just scary sources of fear. They're also a vessel of hope and loving memories for our lost loved ones. Calighost isn't just a cult, it's also the embodiment of the lingering love felt for those that have moved on. I think it's a very strange but fun addition to the Early Route lineup of Enjey. And if you haven't guessed already, its name is a portmanteau of Caligo and Ghost. Those words merge surprisingly well. And with that, we've met the Early Route Pokemon of the Enjey region. That's the most Pokemon I've ever revealed in a single video so far. Would you catch any of these Pokemon? Do you think one or more would make it to your main team? What sorts of animals remind you of your childhood in your home? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear. If you'd like to support me, consider checking out my Ko-fi page. You can follow me on there for free for blog updates on what I'm working on, and you can peruse my shop and commissions if you'd like to support me a little more. I've also cleaned up my monthly memberships a little bit, so if you'd like to support me monthly, I'd really appreciate it. Next month, I'll be sharing some Ghost and Grasslands Pokemon from the Enjey region. Subscribe if you don't want to miss that. I'm excited to share what I've got for that one. I'll keep posting speed paints and other art videos every Friday until then, so I'll see you again soon. Until next time, why don't you go out there and make some art?